Hello, Goddess. Welcome back. This is Andrea with You Are Mind, Body, Soul, where I guide goddesses to bridge the mind, body, and soul through psychosomatic education, consciousness reconditioning, as well as goddess alchemy. I'm so excited to be here today. For those of you that are new to my page, please feel free to subscribe, as well as like and share this video so that more goddesses such as yourself can get this message, because in this space, we are going to be bridging the magical and the mundane. And the topic today about exiting the matrix is something that I have been working with and studying and really just allowing the understanding of what the matrix is for me and my studies and in my journey to really become something that has served as a huge guide in my journey and in my process. So I'm actually really excited about this topic because, it's something that I have worked through and just digested, and I've let it sit in my spirit and in my consciousness, and I've studied it. And this is the first time where I actually get to share it on a public platform. These deep topics where we are bridging the magical and the mundane is really where I love to live, that juicy space of exploration where you have to take the time to take a leap of faith on yourself, and you really have to trust in yourself to know that what you are seeing and to know that what you are experiencing is real. And when you start to walk the path of the goddess and to commit to that journey, to commit to showing up for yourself despite the odds and in the face of your fears and of your discomfort, is like the most awesome place to be. So come on in. I have my coffee here, I have my notes here. It's going to be an amazing journal. Please get yourself, it's going to be an amazing journey. And definitely get a journal, take some notes if you are a note taker and you really want to come back to the things that I'm going to be talking about, because there are going to be some gems in here. And I encourage you to stay to the end because we're going to go deeper and deeper. So, where we're going to start in our journey today, and of course, I have those notes, is the fact that there are multiple sides to every situation. Okay. When you are walking your path in life and you are making your everyday decisions, there are small decisions that we have to make every day, like what we are going to wear, where we're going to go, and what it is we want to prioritize on our to-do list for that day. These are the everyday small decisions that, over time, they are going to contribute to the bigger picture of our life. And then we have those larger decisions that send our lives on paths that can put us into a flow or a current that is going to set the pace and is going to set the tone for our path for maybe years to come. Okay. So there are always going to be multiple influences in these situations and in these decisions. And it's important to start to recognize that there is a matrix involvement in this journey of our life so that we can start to become more conscious of the decision and that we can tap into that authentic expression of our lives and start to tap into what being happy and what really being filled in your existence, which is in alignment with your goddess vibration, rather than just living life by default. Okay. So where we're going to start is there are certain things that we are aware of in life that are influencing us. And then there are things that we are unaware of in life. And what we want is to start to be more aware of the contributing factors that we know are contributing into our lives. When we start to wake up from the matrix, when you start to wake up from the matrix, you start to intentionally bring influences into your life that are going to color your path. Okay. So, most of the time, we are aware of our family history, which is going to basically develop our ego, which is going to contribute to our self concept. Unless you were like adopted or something, you tend to have a pretty good idea of your family history. And that is then going to inform your identity, right? So let's say that you came from a wealthy family where you were inherited with the knowledge and the awareness and the belief that wealth and money and you have easy access to the things that you need, the information that you need, and the resources that you want to then go ahead and develop your life around that because it has already been done. You have a very clear example of what that looks like, and you don't have to go far to find those questions. It's already been given to you. Okay. In the last video, we talked about self concept and how our beliefs are going to govern our self concept, right? So, people that are born into wealth, they already have a certain baseline self concept that is going to set them up for financial success, right? And please like, share, and subscribe. If I didn't say that before, I'll probably say it a couple times again, because we got to work with this algorithm and get this video out here, get this information out here. Okay. So let's say you were born into a situation that was more like myself. I grew up in the hood, right? I grew up where there was a lot of financial disparity, around me in my immediate environment. There were circumstances that were normalized, poverty circumstances that were normalized. There was a normalization that there was always going to be some kind of struggle in life, like this was normal for me. I grew up expecting that life was going to be challenging, expecting that things would be hard and that I would always have something to confront. And so, in my self concept and in my beliefs, I had to develop myself back then. I thought that I had to develop myself holding a posture that was set to battle, right? And that was set to have to prepare for confrontation because there was a lot of traumatic things that went down in my childhood. But at the same time, I was very fortunate because my life was very dichotomous. I also had, immediate access to what going after your dreams look like and success along the lines of what healthy career achievement looked like. I don't know where this fly came from, y'all. This little gnat. I had access to that as well. I had access to a healthy quality education. I went to a private school. So even though I was raised in an environment where we did have financial issues, where there was a lot of conflict and unrest because, I was raised by a single mother. Yes, my father was in the picture, but my mother raised me from when I was young. I also had simultaneous access to an incredible education that also exposed me to other culture. So I went to a private Jewish school. So I also had a good educational foundation. And I knew what I was capable of through the power of my intelligence and of my mind. Right. So all of these things develop our self concept, your family, the culture that you are around. These are the things that you are aware of that are influencing you. They're like automatically, automatic, typically when you were younger, like I'm going to go to college, I'm not going to go to college, like those kind of things. Right. And then at the same time that you are being influenced by these things that you would consider to be a part of your identity, we are also being influenced by the things that we are unaware of. Okay. And in my journey, my awareness of the things that I was unaware of before really started to come online when I started my spiritual life. Okay. I then became aware that I had an ancestral history that was connected with the indigenous people of the earth. Okay. So I started to tap into my medicine woman wisdom, where I started to work with nature and I started to work with animals and I started to work with the seasons. So those things that were influencing me spiritually that I was unaware of, I started to activate those influences and bring those in. And that unawareness really started to come online. I started to bring those things online because it was triggered by like a horrible relationship breakup that really shook me out of the slumber that I was in and forced me to confront the reality of some things. So, a lot of times, this is going to happen when you have a crossroad. Okay. So, in the tarot, this could be considered like the lover's card or like the tower or the two of swords, where you clearly have two distinct paths. There's the path that you're familiar with, the path that you are already comfortable with and aware of, even if it's an uncomfortable comfort, even if you are comfortably numb. And then there is the path that you know is going to take you somewhere that you haven't quite been before. And through this shakeup and this extraordinary experience, it was an extraordinary emotional experience that woke me up and shook me to a point where I was so uncomfortable. I had to call in other resources outside of my baseline identity and activate those things to guide me. Okay. And when this happened, I started to realize that I was in a matrix. Okay. I was in a matrix in a sense that I was moving along a line, a path that was predetermined for me that I didn't have to think very much about, that was taking me in a place where I was comfortable with, that I already knew. Okay. So when you wake up, when you start to wake up from the matrix, you start to choose what you want to be influenced by. Okay. And what you want to activate. Okay. Because you are now consciously aware of your pain bodies, your traumas, and the things that you no longer want to perpetuate, and you are starting to become aware of your desires, because your desire is something that's so important and it's so powerful, because your desire can work to either inform you and inspire you and encourage you, or your desire can work as something that you are just going to look at as outside of yourself, as something that you don't deserve. But when you start to come online and wake out of the matrix, you start to become more clear on what you decide you want to influence you. So for me, for example, I decided that I no longer wanted to be governed and I no longer wanted to be controlled by the familial patterns of poverty consciousness and of drama and trauma. I didn't want that as a part of my life anymore. Because when I went through that extraordinary traumatic experience of having that breakup, of having to, no longer say that I want to go on the path of being a doctor. Now I don't know who I am. I had to say, okay, this works for me. I want to zoom in on the influences where I have positive, successful influences in my life. And I want to anchor into that belief. I want to anchor into, my awareness that that I'm very intelligent, and not simply just anchoring into people that have told me that if I don't do this, then I'm not worthy of being called a successful individual, etc. And then I also had to choose for myself that it was okay for me to be a spiritual being, and that the wisdom that was being birthed into me, that was being poured into me through me recognizing that I had this ancestral birthright, and that I wanted to then acknowledge that, and I wanted that to inform my path. Okay, so this is what happens. Typically, when we start to wake up from the matrix, it's because something extraordinary or traumatic, some life changing event happens where you have to really stop and you have to question things. So please drop a purple heart in the comments if you have ever had an experience where you thought that you knew what normal was like, what standard was like, and then you had an extraordinary experience that really made you stop and question. And then from there, you knew you had to move differently. So I knew that I needed to exit this cycle. And in the old cycle and in the old paradigm, there was not really much to question about my life. It was just me coping and processing with the depression and the anxiety and the people that were talking to me and telling me things about myself that on a spiritual level I knew wasn't right. But when I started to walk that new path, I had several new frames of references. Okay. And I started to activate my feminine energy. I started to awaken. Okay. So once I realized that there was another reality that was influencing me that I could call upon to make life easier for myself, I started to go through this awakening. And the deeper that I awakened into myself, the deeper that I went into the slumber that I was in, and I start to pull myself out for that awakening, the more I started to activate the organic matrix that is my feminine consciousness. And that is what I'm here to show you how to do within the academy, the courses that I have for women, as well as this page and the information that we share, as well as with life coaching sessions. Okay. So the way that you awaken yourself from the matrix is by finding your connection with your womb space. Okay. It's all about your womb portal of energy. Because the womb is a portal between lifetimes, we bring human beings into this world through our wombs as women. We bring ideas into the world through our creative, energetic wombs as women. The activation of this portal, the care for this portal, the nurturing of this portal, and all of our portals is what actually awakens us out of the slumber of the matrix. Okay. So the first thing that I found that I did that was a game changer was I started to choose myself. I know many of you are probably familiar with being in situations where you feel like you have to cater to other people's needs, other people's desires for you, and giving and pouring from your cup. I had to decide that I wanted to choose myself. Okay. And that looked like me recognizing my needs, recognizing my desires as a sacred sexual being, not just sacred, but sacred and sexual and sensual. All of these things became at the utmost importance for me. Okay. And what that unique expression looked like was very specific unto me. And what that looks like for you is going to be very specific for you. And you have to be honest with yourself. So you can ask yourself this question, journal it out if you have a journal. What does my unique feminine expression look like? So for me, when I first started, it looked like a lot of meditation. For me, it looked like a lot of exploration of my energetic body. Okay, which is why I love bioenergetics. I started studying that, and that felt really good. Okay, then I started to study Kundalini. That came into my life, and I started to work through that and activate all of that. Okay, it looked like me dancing. It looked like me being celibate for many years. So at different stages of my life and of my experience, this sacred sensual identity that was coming online after I exited from the matrix started to express itself in ways that I was allowing it to. Whereas before, I wasn't even aware that I had certain desires and certain needs. So ask yourself, what does it look like for you? Okay. And I want you to then get comfortable with the process of validating that with certainty for yourself, validating your desires or lack thereof. Because a lot of the times we look at society and society tells us that as women, we're supposed to feel a particular way in our body. But there is no pre-prescribed way of being. No one can tell you what your authentic essence and what your authentic signature is supposed to look like. You have to be honest with yourself, and you have to allow yourself to be seen and to be acknowledged simply by you. And the more that you do that for yourself, the more that your environment is going to start to be a reflection of the depth of the relationship that you have with yourself. The quality improves. The entire quality of your life will improve. Okay. And when it comes to doing desire work, the best places to start are going to be with inner child work, because your inner child is the gatekeeper to your divine feminine. We talked about that months ago. It was a video on healing the inner child, I believe. Okay, so your inner child is the one that has to deal with all of the trauma. Your inner child is the one that tells your ego identity who it's going to be as you start to get older, and how you're going to deal with life and how you're going to respond to life. Okay. And then also, it's going to be your shadow self. I love the shadow self. I am going to create this video on shadow work. It is coming because shadow work has been a game changer for me. Okay. Especially, as we're moving into Samhain, I believe is tomorrow, the day after I release this video. Shadow energy is just so important to understand, because as a sacred feminine, as divine feminine, as goddesses, we want to acknowledge all of the parts of ourselves. And when we are not acknowledging all of the parts of ourselves, especially the darker things, the shadow aspects of ourselves, we are really not allowing ourselves to live life to the fullest. Okay. So when you start to do this work with your inner child and you start to do your shadow work, you're going to be validating yourself. You're no longer going to need external validation. Okay. You're going to be validating yourself from a place where you are healed rather than wounded. Because we can validate ourselves from a wounded space and then lash out at people in our lives. We can neglect ourselves. We can reject ourselves because we validate these things, right? But when you are healed, you are validating yourself from a space that is going to support your growth. Okay. The next thing that I did to get myself activated out of the matrix and to awaken my divine feminine from that slumber that I was in, okay, is self-trust. And this is so important because all is self in this reality, okay? This three-dimensional reality that we have to wake up and participate in amongst several other layers of reality. At a fundamental level, everything is self. So your dominant vibration, which is going to be fed and fueled by your self concept and your ego, which then informs your behaviors and your posture in life. Check out that last video. It's a great video, okay, about posture and a lot more on self concept, okay? It's going to inform your vibration. And everything that you are internally is what you are going to see externally. Okay. So if you're in a situation in life, because shit has been crazy, y'all, with this eclipse season, like we went from the solar eclipse into the lunar eclipse. At the time that I'm filming this video, we're about to have that lunar eclipse. Is going to be a full moon, and things have been shifting. And I'm just going to speak on the energy real quick that I have been witnessing in life. Like, people are going through it. Okay. Women are going through it. The conversations that I'm having, people are so uncomfortable with their jobs, with their relationships, their friendships. Like, people are uncomfortable. People are lashing out at one another. You know, we have these things that are happening globally, like the earth, the world is going through it right now. And it's even more important during these times where you see unrest in your environment, whether it's happening to you or whether it's happening to someone that you know or that you love or that you associate with. It's even more important for us to have that posture, and even more important for us to understand what is our authentic essence. That is why I created the Mind, Body, Soul 14-day reset course, so you can know what your nutritional game plan is to keep your vibration on point for these challenging times. Okay. We do goddess devotional practices in the academy so that we are equipped for these challenging times. I equip you with these things so that you can continue to stand tall and you can continue to be flexible and move with the times, rather than to shut down and to go into despair because things are not turning out like how you thought they were supposed to. We have to learn how to relax our nervous system in the face of great challenges. It's important, and we have to learn how to call upon our authentic essence so that we can be aware of how we are to move in this reality to make it work for us. Because while everyone else is living in the matrix and being swayed by this catastrophe here and this calamity there, that is not happening even on your front doorstep. You're watching it from a distance, and and people are allowing it to take them out of their power. We want to be in a place where we are empowered, where we can pray and where we can support and we can be that positive standing vibration for those that are in need. This is my hope for the women that resonate with this message and that are a part of this community. Please drop a blue heart in the comment section if you're feeling this message, and if you want to be a part of that healthy, vibrant frequency that is a support being. If you're tired of collapsing into yourself and feeling helpless because what you're seeing in your reality, you are not recognizing that you created that. We are all creating it. We're creating our immediate realities because all is self. Okay. And when we come together in these spaces as a community and we have these conversations and we contribute to these positive high vibrations, we then begin to shift what is happening in the greater world. Some people like to say new earth, that doesn't feel totally authentic for me to make that statement. But I know that is like a very high vibrational statement in some circles. But let's just call it that we are coming into alignment with our goddess lives. Because when you are resonating in your authentic frequency for yourself, you are then uplifting the vibration, and you serve as a beacon of light, which then raises the vibration for others that are surrounding you. And that's something that you can just show up and be. You don't have to talk about it, which is why I love this platform. I love to just show up and exist in a peaceful state of mind for myself and in my body. And then if someone comes to me and asks me how I do it or where I'm at, then I'll share, but peacefulness and wholeness, it speaks for itself. Like the vibe is always high. Well, usually, not always, but we try. Okay. So I want to talk about what like trust feels like in your body. Okay, because I know that this is a common issue for women. Okay, especially like if you don't have posture in life, literally and figuratively, a lot of times it's because you don't trust yourself. Like we just haven't been told. It's it's very understandable because from an evolutionary state, it's only in recent history where women have had the type of independence that we have now, have been able to make or be presented with the particular choices that we have to face now, as women become more independent and as we, have recently started to have the same rights as men. This is new for our nervous systems, for our hormonal systems. So self-trust is not something that is as natural as what I'm communicating to you. But I'm communicating because it's important, because we need to know that it is safe for us to trust ourselves, that it is safe for us to trust our bodies. If this resonates with you, put a blue heart below and say, it is safe for me to trust myself and my body. It is safe. I am safe. And that's something that I had to tell myself for a long time. And you know what? I'll have to say that I walked with that mantra for so long. And as I'm speaking to you now, I realize that I say that mantra less. Like I don't have to say it as much as I used to. Because all of the trauma that I went through in my life, in this lifetime alone, not to mention all of the other lifetimes that have influenced my nervous system and my being, that blueprint from those previous lifetimes, I had to program that out of me. I had to program all of that out of me. So I'm just realizing, like, I don't have to say that I'm safe. I don't have to say it anymore because it's a part of who I am. I believe it. It's in every fiber of my being. And I want that for you because it's true. You are safe. It's just that our mind tricks us to think that we are not safe, and our body is programmed to survive most of the time. So we forget consciously in our higher conscious selves that this is true, that we are actually safe. Okay. So how does lack of self-trust in your vibrational existence, in your constitution, how does that show up? Okay. So most of the time what I have experienced is it's going to show up as me being guarded. So like there is like this energetic masculine like shield up over me that kind of filters and blocks and keeps things out. So it's like an overexertion of boundaries and an over masculinization of my energy because of all the trauma that I experienced in this life and in previous lifetimes. For the majority of my life, I've carried myself with like that dominant protective energy. Okay. So that energy can either push out and push things away, or it can show up in the form as like a cover, which then starts to contract your body and fold you in. Right. And then you're just kind of like have like this fear vibration that surrounds you because you're just afraid of everything, because you don't trust yourself. And when you don't trust yourself, you're not full of your own energy. And when you're awaking from the matrix, you are filled with your own energy, and your own authentic frequency is online rather than being plugged up to the frequency of the world. Your inner dominant frequency is of an authentic, self-cultivated source. I hope that this is making sense. All right. So it's going to start like that. It's going to feel like that. Those are ways in which it can manifest. And it can also manifest in the form of aggression and being easily triggered when you don't trust yourself. Because of that fear, what do we do when we are trying to survive? We are either in fight or we are in flight mode, usually. So you're fighting, you're combative with everything. Everything is out to get you, everything is against you, like that real intense culture, of like toxic femininity. It gets to be a lot when you think that men are trash, and this person is hating on you, and you gotta talk about this person because they don't like you. Like, you just think everybody's out to get you. So you're either aggressive, fighting, or you're flighting, and you're running away from things and you don't want to confront it. This was me for a long time, so I get it. It's normal. I want to let you know that it's normal. Before you start your healing journal, it's normal. Okay. All right. So another way that lack of trust shows up is having a weak internal constitution. So you're going to fixate on your shortcomings. You're going to fixate on your limitations. You have horrible self-talk. You have lack of self-belief. And because you have lack of self-belief, you don't go outside of your comfort zone and try things that, scare you. You stay right inside of your little comfort zone, stay right inside of the loop of going to the same places, seeing the same people, trying the same things, and you don't take leaps of faith on yourself. Another important thing to realize, and thank you so much if you're still here, in the Feminine Alchemy and Freedom course, we talk about taking leaps of faith on ourselves through creating massive life changes, in initiating new forms of self and birthing new versions of ourself. And when you are taking leaps of faith on yourself, it's not as simple as saying, oh, well, I started this new thing and everything is automatically going to work out in my favor. Like, it's automatically going to be easy sailing. Like, when you are in a space where you have initiated and you have decided to walk a new path of change in your life, those things take time. There's a process. It must be cultivated. It's like when you're giving birth, it's a 9-month process. We have to have patience with the things in which we are calling forth in our life and developing. And that is why I love the Feminine Alchemy and Freedom course, because it is all about the death and the rebirth process, and really becoming realistic with what it takes, where we're calling those energy resources from to reshape our reality and world builds, and how all of that works out in the frame of the matrix, the external matrix and the internal matrix. Okay. And the next thing that I have here, so we want to trust ourselves, okay? And trust is a process. It is a deeply cultivated process that takes time. You have to be patient with yourself, give yourself space and grace. Then you want to balance your receptive channels, which are your exchange centers. So we've already talked about the womb and how the womb produces life, literal womb, the figurative womb. There are other places in our bodies, okay? So the heart space, for example, when we open our hearts and we allow ourselves to receive, this is also a place where a lot of wisdom comes in, okay? A lot of wisdom is going to come in through that heart space. And the vibration of the heart space is so important because it actually, the network, the matrix, the lattice of the heart space vibration that goes out, the electrochemical vibration on a scientific level of the heart goes out and expands so far beyond our physical bodies that working with that heart space and opening up the heart space becomes so important when you want to create more change, when you want to see more color and more beauty and more of what you authentically are, who you authentically came to be. Okay, you want to be able to receive from your heart space so that you can give and be balanced in that space, because it's a two-way channel. And we are full of two-way channels throughout our body. Okay. The next thing, oh, and also the heart space is where abundance comes from, because abundance comes in all forms, not just money. It comes in the form of friendship and love and creative energy. And it comes in the form of so many different things: time, having energy, having health in your body. These are all forms of abundance, not just money. Okay. Money is not even real. The next space that I have is the womb space, which is where we do that authentic personal connection. We talked a little bit about it already. And another thing I want you to realize is that your throat and your womb are connected. And I learned this many years ago when I was on my yoga journey. Yoga was something that was incredibly therapeutic for me, and I studied it, and I studied bioenergetics at the same time. And then a few years ago, I actually got certified in yoga just so that, I could have that tutelage. But yoga is something that's been a big part of my life, and working with the energy centers through my yogic practice. And one thing that I discovered in my body through my personal practice on my own, I think I was at the beach one day where I was like, wow, the throat and the womb, there is a portal between the throat and the womb. And when you think about it, the throat is a womb. They have similar characteristics and attributes. Okay. And with the tongue, which is a more recent discovery, with the tongue inside of the mouth, that is actually a balanced masculine and feminine energy exchange that is happening right in your mouth. So when you open your mouth and you speak, you are making love, right? If you're not speaking your truth, if you don't speak very much, then chances are that in your womb space, you're not incredibly receptive either. So that's just some food for thought to start to think about how your mouth and how your womb are connected. And even you can just think about what you put in your mouth and what you eat on a daily, weekly basis. That's going to affect your womb when your moon cycle comes around, right? For me, if I'm eating a bunch of cheap dairy and meat, I know that we're going to be cramping, so just think about it. So as we exit from the matrix, we start to become aware of these simple things that are not so simple, because now we are not just caught up in these traps and these roadblocks in life and letting them get us behind and trip us up on the path that we actually came to exist and be a part of and create, right? Let me see, what else do I have? So if you're unable to receive, it means that you're unable to really integrate life's lessons. And receptivity is really important, because when we receive and we take in, depending on what you're receiving, that is then going to be mixed up and alchemized. And you are then going to show up and be sharing from that authentic space of what you have processed. And this is the magic, this is the goddess alchemy of being a woman. This is the gift of being a woman, is to be able to process your experience, really allow yourself to have that goddess devotional practice, to process your experience and to allow it to incubate and bake and give something of an authentic value to this world, to share something authentic with this world, rather than to either be copy and paste it, or to just have nothing but being circulating in your own fears and limitations. We have choices. Okay, so without getting too deeply occult with you, I want to share with you my experience of the matrix. What exactly is the matrix? So I was looking up the definition of matrix for this video because I do like to look up the word definitions just to keep, my personal feminine experiences grounded in the masculine scientific, because I love to bring both as a goddess. And I was looking up the definition of matrix, and matrix, can be seen throughout different aspects. So one example of a matrix is if you have a cell, okay, and you have the organelles inside of the cell. Like every cell has a nucleus, every cell has a mitochondria, which produces energy. So there are the different aspects of the cell, okay, the organs inside of a cell. And the matrix is the supporting component of what is happening inside of that cell. So it's like the fluid that comes into the cell, right? So if we think about this reality, okay, and we think about ourselves as contributing individual entities within this reality, okay, outside of those individual contributions that we have by way of our existence, it is being supported by a matrix, which is the thing that holds the structure together. So basically, if I could shorthand what I read on the definition of matrix, it is the stuff that holds this reality together. Okay, that is the matrix. And I'm going to share with you my personal experience of the matrix. Okay, so one day I was meditating, and I had graduated college, and I was spending a lot of time alone. It was one of my celibate phases. I've gone through many celibate phases. Okay, and I was doing meditation on my experience in reality, who I was surrounded by, the issues that I was having. Okay. And all of that was surrounding who I was in that moment. Okay. So there was who I was in that moment, sitting in the chair in my apartment, in my body, having this meditation, right? And this is why meditation is so important. So I went into this deep meditation, and I wanted to still myself. I wanted to quiet myself so that I could find presence, and so that I could find clarity, and so that I could find detachment from my issues that I was having, my challenges that I was having, right? And we reframe challenges and issues inside of the Feminine Alchemy and Freedom course. And I remember that there was this moment where I was inside of this deep meditation where I had connected with my body. I had quieted myself. And then all of a sudden, I saw everything in this reality. It looked like, have you ever seen a playground that have those domes on the playground, like in the jungle gym where you can like climb, and they're like pentagrams or hexagrams, and it's in this dome, and you can like climb on it and you can hang from it and whatnot. And it was like all of a sudden there was me on the inside, and then there was this lattice, this network, this connection that looked like a dome outside of me, and I raised it off of me. And in that moment, I was like, wow. Well, I don't think I called it the matrix in that moment, but it felt like something that was outside of me. So there was me as myself in my body and in my self-awareness. And then there was everything outside of me that was not me. And it was like it was lifted off of me. That was the matrix. That was the matrix. Okay. I hope that this makes sense. Put a blue heart below if you're still on the video. Okay. And it was like the most fascinating thing ever, because for someone like me that dealt with Anxiety and depression, which is, it is emotional imbalance. It is mental imbalance where it's very difficult to find presence in your body because you are just plagued by your life circumstances. So for me to come from that experience and in that moment find that separation, which felt like a great sense of relief for me in that moment, it helped me to realize that there was something outside of myself that was weighing on me, that I was allowing to weigh down on me and to influence my identity. And it did not have to. It did not have to the extent in which I was in. So I recognize that as the external matrix. Okay. All of my problems and the influences of television and everything that I've come across, that was the matrix. It was outside of me. And as I deepened into my personal practice and I got to know myself better and my self-awareness grew and I studied more, I realized that I have my own internal matrix, because at the end of the day, the divine feminine, everything is created from the divine feminine because we have wombs. We create life on this planet. This is where it comes from. Mother Earth is the real matrix. And we have all just laid ourselves on top of her and gotten comfortable with disrespecting her and disregarding her. We are on top of the real matrix. Okay. And as women having wombs, we hold down that lattice matrix that also holds and supports everything else on this planet. Do you understand what I'm saying? Drop a blue heart below if you do. Okay. So the real matrix comes from the essence of our being as women and the vibrations that we hold in that we connect with one another and that we activate within ourselves. Okay. So one of the most empowering things that I have learned to do is to command my reality by focusing on my internal environment, my internal lattice that starts from here, and my authenticity, and showing up in that way for myself. It has changed everything for me. Okay. So we as women are the gatekeepers of this reality. And when we heal ourselves and we call forth the power of our transformative capabilities, we start to shift this reality in powerful ways. We start to value ourselves in more powerful ways. And we start to change things in positive ways for the whole entire future of this planet. So that's the message I have for you today. Please like, share, and subscribe if you stayed this long. I love you so much. Hope you enjoyed this message. I'll catch you in the next one. One love. Mwah.